Sports Hub.
Like, I'm told Jason Tatum is a full go in 5-on-5 scrimmages with the Celtics. And right now it's about him putting together a number of practices and scrimmages to build up his conditioning and increase the strength in both of his calves. And an essential element right now around Jason Tatum is the hurdle of being 100% mentally ready, 100% confidence in that right leg, because the common theme from people close to Jason Tatum has been him getting out there and returning to action is, quote, when JT feels like JT. And so the Celtics will take Jason Tatum's lead. He's in the driver's seat. He's going to be the one to make the decision. The team has not put any pressure on him. Think about it, guys. He's 9 months post Achilles surgery, and he's going full 5-on-5. Jason Tatum, throughout all of this for months, has just wanted to get us to this point in March where he's able to make a decision on whether he can play or not. Doctors, team officials, his side, and then Jason Tatum himself will get in a room eventually and then make a decision about whether he will be able.
Talking about Jason Tatum, it's going to be a collaborative decision here, apparently. But we were primed. We were primed for it to be tonight. And, man, I've been primed for a while to work with Colin. We were supposed to work together. Had the Patriots won the Super Bowl, we would have had overnight programming here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Myself, Jake Seymour, and Colin were going to go all night like Lionel Richie. It would have been fun, if the team showed up.
A lot of disappointment recently. No Super Bowl, no Tatum.
Yeah. I mean, so either way, they threw us a bone and said, hey, guys, if Tatum comes back, would you, work a radio show? Jim Louth reached out, and we're like, yeah, we definitely work a radio show. Let's do it. Well, it was announced yesterday that Jason Tatum is not coming back, but nobody called me and said, hey, it's canceled. Guess what? We are live and local on 98.5 The Sports Hub until 7:30, where tonight you will have pregame coverage for Celtics and 76ers, which, sorry to throw water on this one, folks. I hope you still listen because, of course, the Celtics are, Matt Doloff and I were just talking about this. They're lovable this year, folks. They truly are. And they're worth a watch most nights. Winners of 10 of their last 12, in prime position in the Eastern Conference here in a spot that a lot of people, most people, basically all people, didn't think that they were going to be in. I know there's probably some disagreement, on where you thought the Celtics were going to finish. The books had them kind of checking in with a lower win total. But, I was listening to Gasper and Murray yesterday, and Big Jim was like, I thought maybe they could be third or fourth in the East. I think I had said fourth or fifth. But you have to think about just the chunk of talent that this team lost beyond Tatum. You lost Holiday, Porzingis, Horford. You lost 4 of your top 6 rotation players on this team, and then you come back for this season and you're number 2 team in the East. It's wild without Jason Tatum. But we were thinking that tonight was going to be the night. It was like Rod Stewart. He's going to sing "Tonight's the Night" for the fans out there. And unfortunately, the injury report came out on Saturday. Jason Tatum still out, and we continue to wait. I mean, the signs were all there. The league flexed to this game. A very popular NFL maneuver has become an NBA maneuver where we flex games so we can get more eyeballs on them. I'll tell you the truth. I was looking at this Celtics season not a couple months ago, and I got a 7-year-old son. We have not been to a Celtics game at TD Garden yet. And I was like, let's get him over there for a game before the end of the season. Let's figure out like a weekend afternoon game. There was one against the Bucks a couple of months ago. Maybe it was a month ago, a little over a month ago, that we could have gone to. But I was like, that Sixers game, that's one to keep an eye on because, one, it's the 76ers, bitter rival of the Boston Celtics going back to God knows when. And 2, maybe Tatum's back for that one. Maybe my kid in his first time at a Celtics game could see Jason Tatum in action. Maybe there would be a chance. Well, Guess what? They flexed that 6 o'clock game to 8 o'clock. Now, no judgment on any of you parents out there, but I'm not taking, I know my kid. I'm not taking my 7-year-old to an 8 o'clock game on a Sunday night. That's for me, living where I live, that's a midnight return home. That's bad news bears. So here we are. Maybe we'll go to the fan appreciation game. That's a 6 o'clock tap against the Magic, the last game of the season. But when is this going to happen? I'm not particularly concerned about if it's going to happen, but it really is a question of when, because it ties into a lot of things. Now, the report is that Tatum wants to come back for a home game. We've got some home games coming up this week. We got Milwaukee, we got Charlotte, we got Dallas. Those 3 games will be at TD Garden. But the next home game after that would be March 14th. So it's kind of a ways away. I know we've been trying to decode Instagram and this documentary thing, which honestly I care so little about the noise that I don't even really know what the documentary is. I just
documentary is using I wouldn't call it a documentary.
A short film, perhaps? Docuseries? Is it sponsored by Amica Insurance, perhaps?
No, but he's got plenty of commercials. If you drive around Boston, there's plenty of new Jason Tatum Amica billboards up.
Yes, they're really working that partnership there. So, I know we're a safety insurance radio station here, but Amica is what I believe the official insurance of the Boston Celtics. It's very prominent on their broadcast, but yeah. So we got some hype, we got some media out there about Tatum. Obviously, that's a position that he's going to put himself in. Ever since he has come into the NBA, he's been a brand. I mean, you're only smart to if you're an NBA player or any athlete. Nowadays, now you can start doing it in college, right? You can start doing it in high school, where you can build your brand. And from the potato chip sponsorships on down, Jason Tatum and his team have clearly always been very thoughtful about how they're going to align themselves and with whom, and how they're going to manage the message around who Jason Tatum is and what fans should expect. So yeah, there's been that aspect to it, but I look at it more obviously from a basketball perspective, and the thought of, okay, you've got a guy who had an Achilles injury in May. Was it April or May? Second round, May. Yeah, against the Knicks. And that turnaround, obviously, we've been hearing about this since the injury happened. That he went in that night, he had the procedure. The goal was to, basically make this so it is not necessary. Literally, we were talking about this right after it happened, that we were trying to not have this be a whole year lost, that he wanted to get back on the court, and that's why they got him in so quick. That was not an option. Obviously, he was in New York to have the procedure done, but that was not an option for Tyrese Halliburton when he got hurt. Another prominent NBA player, DeJounte Murray, who I remember tearing it up against the Celtics in the playoffs, 2-3 seasons ago when he was on the Hawks. He had like a 40-point game. Very good player. He had an Achilles injury last January, and he was back about 13 months to the time of the injury. I saw he had 17 points, 9 assists the other night, so Murray getting right back to what he does best. Now, the Pelicans are a bad team, so it's kind of a different comparison, but the thought is, okay, you're 10 months, 11 months out here, or we're working in that area now that we're into March, 10 months out. And what do you need? What do you need to have a 17.9 assist or a 17.9 rebound might be more appropriate for Jason Tatum performance? Because I don't expect him to be at 100%, meaning he's going to throw up 35, against an elite team and be hitting step back logo threes all over the place. But how can he help this Celtics team with his very unique talents? And how long will it take for him to feel confident to do that on a consistent basis? feel confident to do that where, he's not worried about getting hurt again, because obviously that lives in the mind of pro athletes when they get injured. I mean, just look at Kevin Durant when he tore his Achilles. That was, I think, June of 2019 in the finals. He was coming off a calf injury that had happened in the second round of the playoffs. He tore the Achilles in the finals, and he wasn't back until the following December. Now, obviously, there was the COVID season and all that stuff, but he was more of a year and a half. And the other part is being able not only to feel healthy, feel confident, and be consistent, but ratchet that up to an elite level of play in a playoff series. So I'm looking at all of those elements here. What sort of runway does Jason Tatum need? And obviously, we'd love it if you join us to talk about this at 617-779-0985. Where do you land on this? Is this the sort of thing where you want him back as soon as possible? Do you want him back full throttle as soon as possible? I got news for you. That's probably not going to be the way this goes. There's some nuance about whether he's a starting player or a bench player off the bat. I think that just because it's Jason Tatum that he slides into the starting lineup. I mean, Colin, would you sometimes with injury rehab, guys come off the bench, but it's Jason Tatum.
Yeah, Jason Tatum's a starter. He's not a bench guy.
Yeah, they're going to announce his name. The adulation will pour down from the rafters, right?
Even if he plays bench minutes for the first, say, 2 weeks or so that he's back, he's going to be in the starting lineup.
Right. So it's got to be that. But there may be some other people out there who say, hey, this season is fun, but it's fluky enough where I don't want to risk it. Let's just reset and have him back in 2027. And to that, my opinion is you put yourself in a position to succeed here. Does the East scare you to the point where bringing back Jason Tatum is not worth it at all? I mean, where do you land on this, Colin?
I don't get the risk part of it, because if he's healthy to come back, he's healthy to come back.
Right.
He's not, that Achilles isn't going to fall apart on him because he comes back too soon. It's been 9 months. If he's cleared and he feels mentally ready to come back, then he should come back. I'm not afraid of re-injury or anything like that. Yeah,
and there's no doctor that's going to okay him to get back out there on the floor.
If this was December and he was coming back, there would be worry. But
yeah.
By the time he comes back, we're talking about mid-March maybe. I just don't see a re-injury being a concern for Jason Tatum.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just for me about the fit, and we can get into that part and how he fits with this roster. Again, with input from you at 617-779-0985. Joe Mazzulla has done a great job with this bunch, and we can credit this bunch, this team, Jaylen Brown, in taking the reins and really hauling this team to a level of respectability. And honestly, I feel like there's a reason to fear the Celtics in the Eastern Conference. If you're the Cleveland Cavaliers or you're the Knicks, and you're feeling pretty comfortable with how you're doing. The Knicks, winners of the NBA Cup, of course. Everybody loves the NBA Cup. Winners of that in December. They're feeling themselves, right? They won the Shooting Stars competition during All-Star weekend, so there was that as well. Lots of proverbial feathers in the cap for the New York Knicks over the 2025-26 NBA season. So they'll be feeling themselves coming to the playoffs because, of course, regular season trophies are all the Knicks win. But, you get to that playoff series against the undermanned Celtics. I feel like I'd be quivering in my boots a little bit, even if you beat them last year, because you're the Knicks. And if you fail against the Celtics team without Jason Tatum, well, then the backlash is going to be terrible. So you're second-guessing everything. Same with the Cavs. I mean, how many times can the Cavs fall flat on their face? How many times can Donovan Mitchell, who proclaims himself to be one of the best players in the world, fall on his face? All of these things on the table. Definitely want to talk. Red Sox wrapped up a spring training game again today. We won't do it right away, but we will talk some Red Sox with you probably later in this hour. 6 o'clock hour, I'd like to hit on some Pats, some Bruins. We got some weird things going on in the world of sports, which, that's right up my alley. So we'll get to all of that. Sean Sylver, Colin Kennedy, we're here until 7:30. Celtics pregame begins with Grandy and Max.
Boston's home for sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Big on flavor, big on comfort.
triumphant return. Rejoice. Not happening tonight. Joel Embiid also out for 3 games. He's played, I have him on my fantasy basketball team, don't ask. He's played roughly a third of the season. He's been amazing when he's been out there. But yeah, hasn't been too good. Hasn't been too good for the 76ers this year. Paul George, not in the not gonna be playing this season. Up to some hijinks. And Tyrese Maxey. That's Tyrese Maxey alone is reason to tune in. That dude's filthy. So we'll see if the Celtics can make it 11 out of their last 13. But I want to talk about, the reintegration of Jason Tatum and how he fits with the Celtics roster, and B, what are their real chances based off of that? And with you at 617-779-0985. They're a 2 seed right now. They're 5.5 back of the Pistons. They're a game up on the Knicks and 3 games up on the Cavs. Cavs have hit a little lull after their 8-game winning streak. I think they've dropped 3 or 4. The Pistons, however, they're keeping it up, and they do have some tough games coming forward. Detroit, but the Celtics do too. In fact, the Celtics have a little gauntlet coming up where they play Cleveland, San Antonio, and OKC on the road back to back 1 week. So that's a tough week. So I don't expect them to be the top seed in the East, certainly with the way things have gone. You have a debilitating injury. Again, you lose 4 of your top 6 or 7 players on the team. I realize, yes, I just said 6, 7. If my kids are listening, go ahead, do it. But it's been a really, I think to me, a fun season. I was saying this to Tim McCone on the Blizzard night. I was in here before the Blizzard last week on a Sunday night, that Celtics-Lakers game, which was fun. They blew out the Lakers on Pat Riley night. How could you not love that? Shove it in Pat Riley's face. Shove it in the Lakers' face. But the Celtics, last year, they were the hunted, and I don't know if it suited them well. They reverted to a lot of their kind of same old tactics. They weren't as dynamic, I don't feel, as they were in 2023-24 when they won the title. And it was they had already lost the series to the Knicks before Tatum went down, but it's just they kind of relied on the same old stuff. And it was kind of left me questioning Joe Mazzulla. This year they're the hunter again. And they thrive on that, you can tell. Because Jaylen Brown, give him some sort of avenue to be a guy who's going to chase top guy credibility in the NBA, and he will do it. Derek White clearly has adjusted to being a guy who's focused on by opposing defenses versus a guy who's able to get wide open threes on the wing. There were some stats we were looking at earlier in the season. I think Jake Seymour told me about these, where White had 80% of his threes or something like that were assisted last year, and it had dropped by 15% because of course he's having to generate offense off the dribble. And there have been some gnarly shooting nights for White. His overall field goal percentage this season has not been great, but of course he's still bringing everything else to the table, including the elite shot blocking, which is nuts. Peyton Pritchard has went from 6th man of the year to a guy who's more than a 6th man. And is just a legitimate threat to create offense, a capable defender. Talk about a guy who rose up into that vacuum that was created with the departure of Holiday from this team. And, of course, Tatum from the starting lineup. Neemias Queta being a guy who can give you 20 to 25 capable big man minutes in the NBA. I don't think anybody thought he was capable of that last year, but he is. And even, just the kind of fringy, 7th man, 8th man guys. We had the Josh Minot experience for a little while. Jordan Walsh has actually shown us that he can play in the NBA, which again was something that was entirely questionable coming into this season. We had some Luka Garza love fest off the offensive rebounding that he was doing. And Hugo Gonzalez, his stats don't jump off the page, but in terms of his team impact, he's potentially, like, are there 10 better rookies than him this season? Right? I'm getting a shaking the head no from Colin here. I mean, it's tough to, because I know the NBA does the all-rookie team, first and second team. And it would be tough to put a guy averaging 4 points a game, like, on the first team. I think he's averaging 3.9 coming into tonight's game. But I could very much see him, like, on that second team. Just his value's been through the roof, particularly with the guys that they're missing on the Celtics roster.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's earned the right to be on the all-rookie team. I just don't know if voters will put him on there just because his points scoring is so low. And he's a little Missoula's rotations are a little streaky in terms of, like, he might go 3 games without playing. He's not as consistent of a minutes holder as some other guys. But his impact and what he could be ultimately become is a lot higher than most of those rookies.
Who's the guy for you, Colin, out of all the players on the Celtics? You know, I just listed some of them that have, you know, pretty much given you a laundry list of Celtics who've exceeded my expectations. But who's the guy? I mean, obviously Jaylen Brown's the team MVP to this point. But who's the guy who's jumped off the page most to you for the leap that they've taken?
I think it's Queta. Because I think going into the season, the whole front court was the biggest question mark. Because you didn't know did you even have a starting caliber center, let alone like 2 options that you ultimately have in Queta and Garza and now Vucevic. And now that you can even ask the question of like who should start, Queta or Vucevic, is kind of impressive on Queta's part.
It'll be interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
And Queta's still starting over Vucevic. I don't know if that will continue, but it's impressive that Missoula is still trusting him over a veteran like Vucevic.
Yeah, and that was kind of where I was going next. Is Vucevic is coming off the bench, and you'd expect a 35-year-old guy who's been an all-star in this league and put up the kind of numbers that he's done to slide into a starting role. But perhaps it's better in this mix. We have seen the Celtics over the years, make some moves for big men that have just really not worked out. One that sticks to me is back when they were kind of, that past Big Three era was kind of meeting its death. They made a move, and I think it was in the Perk trade. Jeff Green came over, but also a gentleman by the name of Nenad Kristic, who was a pretty capable NBA player for a bunch of years, and with the Nets and with the Thunder. And then when he got to Boston, he just completely bombed out. And it's just like, the modern NBA doesn't leave a lot of room for big men to put their stamp on a team, I guess, I would say. And Vucevic, yeah, he's got an outside shot, but he's kind of like your plodding, old school kind of center in a lot of ways, and doesn't bring a ton to the table defensively. So I really wondered, where's he going to fit on the Celtics?
Well, he was impressive on Friday night. I know the opponent was terrible, and Brooklyn was terrible. But, I mean, I was at the game. He was impressive. Scoring, he could get any shot he wanted, and he rebounded well, too. So he's definitely a better scoring option than Queta. Yeah. But defensively and as rim protection, Queta's probably a better option.
Well, you probably need 2 7-footers in your 8-man rotation, right? So in that sense, they've got them. So wherever they're deployed, I mean, the minute split is probably going to be about even, and it probably is going to change due to matchup, right? On nights where you need more defense and more of the things that Queta gives you, you're going to go to him. On nights where you need a little more of a dynamic offensive approach with the passing and the things, outside shooting. Queta took a 3 the other game I saw.
It didn't go well.
He's trying to be like Vooch a little bit. But, on those nights when you need that, you'll go to Vucevic. And I know you mentioned being at the game on Friday night. They were talking to Missoula after about, I forget what the question was, if it was about his ceiling for Vucevic and or if he was comfortable, I think. And I think Missoula's response was, I hope he never gets comfortable, because that means that he won't be continuing to get better, right?
Yeah.
And that I love. Joe Missoula has really, he won me over, obviously, as the coach of a championship team who showed that he was, in certain situations willing to go outside of the playbook. By that, I mean just bombing threes to kill teams with, an avalanche of 3-point shots. But he had Porzingis to do that for him, So they would throw it into the post and give teams a different look, but it was because you had Porzingis, who again, in the modern NBA, qualifies as an elite post-up player. A guy who can hit, elbow and inside bank shots, right? But last year he lost me over the course of the season because it just seemed like they were going into hyper mode on the whales and the and the barrage of threes. To see a new just a new element to Mazzulla's coaching repertoire by guiding these guys to the success that he has. I mean, JB Bickerstaff's probably going to get Coach of the Year for the Pistons, and deservingly so. But I think Mazzulla, if the Pistons have any slip, or if there's any sort of conversation about second, I think it's got to be Joe Mazzulla.
Yeah. I mean, I think people forget how young Joe Mazzulla is in terms of an NBA head coach. And, he still has to learn things. Last year he had to learn, maybe you need to change the way you do things. And I think you've seen that this year, becoming more adaptable and learning more. So I just think people kind of forget that, and that Joe Mazzulla's also going to continue to get better as the team gets better with him. And
that's a great point. And his media persona is such that he's not going to openly admit to mistakes or kind of be like, he's not going to tell anybody outwardly, oh, I'm kind of finding my way, I'm learning some new stuff. But you can just tell from the people he hangs out with, you see him in the presence of other leaders, other coaches, and you can just tell that he is constantly educating himself, even if he won't admit to that. It's okay for the modern man to be like, hey, I make mistakes. I'm open to learning. Joe Mazzulla doesn't necessarily come off that way in press conferences.
He's not one to show weakness.
No, he's not one to show weakness, but you can tell that he has that thoughtful approach. And the fact that he has put this together, this piece of art, that is and I'm not saying that, this belongs in the Sistine Chapel of coaching necessarily, but it's been pretty damn great. To think what we were expecting. I forget, did they say 43 win teams, so slightly above?
Around there, yeah.
Yeah, slightly above 500.
An 8 seed or play-in team.
Right. And this is probably a 50-win team. This is like Brad Stevens coaching up the 2017 Celtics in a way. And I forget who I was texting with. They compared it to 2017 recently. And I remember that season being a lot of fun. I remember jumping on other podcasts and shows and, in other markets and things and kind of being like, yeah, Celtics are in first place. It was very unexpected. This has held a lot of those same feelings. And while that's a great thing for them to achieve, really the ultimate, it does take Jason Tatum being back. I mean, Can they get through this Eastern Conference in a 7-game series? I feel like they're a great regular season team, and that's not a knock. They're a great regular season team because they outwork, and they have talent, but they outwork. You don't win 7-game series often by outworking in the NBA.
No. I mean, I think as presently constructed without Jason Tatum, they could get into that Eastern Conference Finals, and they play hard enough where if there's a Detroit team who is inexperienced and get into that stage, can they get them to 7 games and maybe the ball bounces their way?
Yeah.
It could definitely happen. I'm not saying this team can't get to the NBA Finals, but you going up against an Oklahoma City Thunder, a San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah.
You're going to need a Jason Tatum and a pretty healthy Jason Tatum to beat that team.
Absolutely. Those 40-20 teams. Do you know about that stat? Who came up with the 40-20 stat? I forget now.
I mean, Greeny's pretty he goes heavy into it on Twitter for the 40-20.
And 18 of the last 19 NBA champs did 40 wins before 20 losses.
I think there's only been 4 teams in NBA history who have not won 40 games before 20 losses and won an NBA title.
One of which was it the 2004 Pistons, I believe, might have been that team. But I think of it as this. Okay, the Celtics just missed being a 40-20 team this season, but have any teams had a player the caliber of been close to 40-20 and had the caliber of Jason Tatum coming back?
Yeah, I don't believe that rule necessarily applies to the Celtics team.
Right. So it's kind of interesting to consider. It's kind of interesting to consider that there could be glitches in the matrix. I would believe you if you were to tell me that the Oklahoma City Thunder would go back to back, but to trust the Spurs, as good as they have been, they are just as young, if not younger, and more raw than that Pistons team that you just mentioned. So, hey, anything could happen. And to me, that's a great way to feel about sports. It really is. 617-779-0985. We've done a couple segments on the C's. We will come back to that in the 7 o'clock hour as we're leading into Celtics and 76ers. 7:30, your pregame with Grandy and Max. 8 o'clock, your tip-off. And we'll hit on some other topics here. Red Sox, Patriots, Bruins, all on the table. I want to have a conversation about fear with Colin. He has no idea because I've never even talked to him about this. But we'll be talking about some of our greatest fears this evening. Of course, if you want to participate. If you don't, that's okay. But I'm going to let it all loose. 98.5 The Sports Hub, Sylver with you till 7:30.
Boston's home for sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
As we lead up to Celtics basketball, let me get to know Colin a little bit off the air, as we have not worked together to this point. This is our maiden voyage. And what a fantastic voyage it might have been had Jason Tatum been in the lineup for the Celtics tonight. I could anticipate just a wall-to-wall Celtics calls. But, if you want to join, you want to talk about anything, you're always welcome. 617-779-0985, Mikasa Sukasa. All right? Wanted to talk about the Red Sox a little bit. World Baseball Classic. Colin, you going to be watching that?
Depends what time it's on.
I got to admit, I've never been a huge... I don't really feel like I've consumed too much of this. I feel like this started in like 2006. Might have been the first year that they had
My
this.
first memory of it is the last one they did 4 years ago.
Right? See, I mentioned 2006 because I think... I could be mistaken. I think the World Baseball Classic in 2006, which 20 years ago, okay, so I just learned that you're a recent college graduate, so you would have no memory of this. I think that's what got the Red Sox all fired up to sign Daisuke Matsuzaka. Brilliant signing. But I've never been a big consumer of the WBC. It's, I don't know, it's one of these put-on tournaments. Like, you can't have baseball in the Olympics, right, because it would cut in too much to the baseball season. It would be a summer Olympic sport, of course. Now, there were some years, if I recall, back in the 80s when it was a demonstration sport at the Olympics, and you had some great, everybody remembers, if you're as old as me, I'll be 43 in a month, Colin. If you're as old as me, you remember that Team USA Mark McGuire card, things like that. Back in the 80s, they had the college players and they play in the Olympics. But it's the WBC now, and it's just never kind of worked for me as a fan. I guess kind of it's like baseball trying to be like the Four Nations Cup. Even though there's way more than four nations in there. But the Red Sox, off-season grade, I give them a B. A B. I feel like they made some very good moves. A bundle of very good moves. Ranger Suarez, great pickup. Sonny Gray, good pickup. A little bit older, good pickup. Effective pitcher. Wilson Contreras, effective hitter. Professional hitter, you might say. Johan Oviedo, there's an upside move. There's a guy who, if he's healthy, could give you something. They got a lot of guys on the pitching staff who, if they're healthy, could give you something. And your pitching staff is actually pretty potent. Pretty nasty when you look at it on paper. But they failed to replace Alex Bregman, who is the reason why Rafael Devers is no longer here, because they, had to muck up the communication on the whole thing with they had to bring in Alex Bregman. They just absolutely had to have him here when they already had a third baseman here. And, don't tell the third baseman that it's happening. Now they're both gone. I feel like the Alex Bregman leadership thing, I feel like it's there, but I feel like it's wildly overrated. You got to have great veterans in your clubhouse. I feel like that's a thing. But was Alex Bregman the Jesus Christ superstar of the Boston Red Sox last year? If he was, it was for a team that was flawed and fell short. And for the amount of time that he has spent off the field in recent years and the just slow diminishing of his skills, he's not the same player he was in 2017 when he was getting trash cans banged in his direction. He was great here. He wound up being a great one-season player. I don't even think he got, what did he get, like 3-something WAR if you're going that way with the analytics. He was good. He was good. But the Red Sox, they needed him or someone like him who was going to contribute to the offense in a similar way this year. And they failed to add that player. They upgraded at first base. Wonderful. But they failed to add that player. And it kind of reminds me of, and Colin, I'll just give you the warning as we're 47 minutes into this. I'm a guy who gets nostalgic an awful lot on the radio. An awful lot. It reminds me of when Mo Vaughn left the Red Sox in 98. And Dan Duquette made a bunch of signings that offseason. But the big one was ultimately Jose Offerman. And the Red Sox were going to do run prevention. We're going to focus on it. We got Pedro. We'll be all right. Well, they were fun in 99. In fact, they made the ALCS, which was hard for them to do back then. And harder to do in general because only 4 teams made the playoffs in the American League, in the National League. But you just can't lose that sort of offense production. The whole, the ZiPS projection thing, I don't understand all this stuff. I tried to. There was a time where I was a blogger for a website that covers the Red Sox. And I thought the whole experience, other than the people I met who are also blogging, who are wonderful people, the entire experience was garbage, so I'm not going to highlight it. I guess that's just how it goes in blogging, that it's just a garbage industry. It's unfortunate. Or at least maybe my experience there just clouds my entire perspective on it. But I remember back then I was trying to learn the analytics stuff. I was really trying hard. I even took a course. It was like an extension course online. Trying to figure it out. So I don't know about this ZiPS projection stuff, but they're not projecting any 20 home run hitters on the Red Sox this year. The 99 Red Sox had Nomar, okay, and Troy O'Leary and John Valentine, whatever, Brian Dahlbeck. I get that those guys had 20 home runs back then, but that was not a powerful team way back when, but at least you had Nomar. Are you expecting Roman Anthony to put up 30 home runs this season? I don't know. I don't know. And they still have, despite not having enough offense, they still have way too many guys in the outfield. They should have traded Jarren Duran 2 years ago. And he continues to rake, and we're watching him do that in spring training. He's got, 3 homers in his last 2 games. But they needed to trade an outfielder and a pitcher to get an infield bat, and they didn't do it. So, and it's so rare to see teams do straight-up swaps anymore in the regular season. I'll trade my guy for your guy. We'll fill a need. You'll fill a need. Rocky and Adrian, I got holes, you got holes. We'd love to see that, but I think the Red Sox are going to be going through another season here where positionally it's what do we got? And in the infield, Marcelo Meyer needs to win that job. He homered the other day in his first action back. I read a lengthy Athletic piece on how he is trying to reclaim his speed and worked with a base running speed trainer in the offseason. He wants to steal some bags. Just show me that you can stay healthy, pal, and emerge here as a solid everyday major leaguer, and I'll be fine with it. I'll be fine with it. But any Marcelo Meyer Rookie of the Year talk, you want to chat me up on it, fine. That's good. But Meyer's got to be healthy, and Durbin's got to play well. Romy Gonzalez, he's not healthy. If you're looking at him to contribute in the infield. Trevor Story, is he going to give you 162 again this year with the way he's been banged up in recent seasons? So there's a lot there to question. But certainly the pitching staff looks good. My buddy Brian just texted Jose Offerman, great at going back on pop flies. Didn't he also throw a bat at somebody in a brawl at one point? I feel like when he was in the independent league, I think he threw a bat at somebody. He might have been arrested for that or charged for something. But let's get your take on this. Colin, if you could bring him up. I don't have my board up. Luke and Taunton. Luke, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well.
Listen, so the Celtics, if I truly believe if the injuries between Tatum and Brown were reversed, I think the record would be worse. I think the ball movement is much better with Brown on the court leading the way.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Luke. And
also,
yeah,
they need to get rid of the goal runner in extra innings. I'm out.
All right, we have two major takes here. And again, Colin, when Sylver's on the radio, it's not necessarily hot take central. I don't come in here with flames coming out of my ears and out of my rear end, although if I eat something spicy, you never know. But on those two things, the ghost runner, I've heard a little bit of talk about that because of hockey, of all things. People talking about modifying your extra period, the 3-on-3 in the Olympics, whether that was just too derivative of the actual game. And, I do agree. John Cooper was peeved, for lack of a better term, I guess. He was upset. He was Drake upset, to quote Joe Murray, about the 3-on-3 overtime. Now, if they had won the gold, would he have been upset about it? I don't know.
No.
Definitive opinion from Colin there. But oh, come on, let me sign to the computer. There we go. Doing something I should have done 54 minutes ago. But in baseball, it doesn't bother me because they get rid of it for the playoffs. You don't have the ghost runner in the playoffs. And baseball's whole point was they were trying to make games go quicker. And they have for the last few seasons. Now, I am curious to see where we go with this ABS thing this season. I haven't been keeping data on how long it's been taking, because the ABS review is pretty instant in terms of turning it around and giving you something. But how many times are we going to go to the review? And if you pile up these 5 or 10 second requests here, how many minutes are you now adding on to a baseball game where you hacked off all these minutes with a pitch clock and a ghost runner and all this other stuff a few years ago? Where are you on ABS, Colin?
I feel like you have to have some kind of constraint of when you can use it. Like
right.
Whether that's you have 2 strikes or there's 2 outs, 2 strikes, or you can use it 5 times a game. Like you can't just call for it anytime you want.
Is there
all night?
Is there a constraint?
I don't know if there's a constraint in the spring training games.
Okay.
I feel like if you're going to use it in regular season games this year, you're going to have to do something about that.
I'm a big constraints guy. I believe in freedom, but I don't believe that pro athletes always deserve freedom to argue all day long and John McEnroe their way to a title. I think that the challenge system in the NFL has worked out pretty well. I feel like the NBA challenges can be arduous at times, and NBA games are already long enough in the fourth quarter as they are. But it's the same thing. You get to challenge, okay? And the NBA and NFL are two pretty hard to litigate, games where you have fouls based on, fouls and penalties, I guess, based on does the ref, how is the ref calling this game, right? Baseball is the same way in that an individual umpire can dictate the strike zone for a game, but at least with that, that one guy is going to have maybe a bigger strike zone, or this guy, okay, he likes to allow the higher strike, or this guy goes down, and calls the low pitches by the knees. To be able to argue every single ball and strike without constraints, I don't know. It's just a dangerous thing.
I got the rules here.
Okay,
so
what do we got?
Each team's going to start the game with 2 challenges apiece. If they're successful, they keep the challenge. If they're unsuccessful, they're going to lose it. And then once you get to extra innings, if a team doesn't have any challenges left, they'll get 1 for the extra innings, however long it may go.
That's fair enough. I feel like that's okay.
Yeah.
You agree?
Yeah, it adds some strategy to it when you're going to use it. When's it important to use it? You're probably not going to use it in the first 6 innings of the game. So some strategy to it.
Yeah, that's cool. And maybe keep the beer vendors open a little bit longer. When we have some ABS appeals. 617-779-0985. But yeah, I did want to just hit on the Sox a little bit. The other point that the caller made, Luke's point was he feels like if Tatum was the lead dog this year on the Celtics, that they would have had worse results than Jaylen Brown as the lead dog. Colin, you got a reaction to that take? That one's spicy.
That's deep. I feel like I need a couple minutes to go through that one.
I'm going to go along with the caller. I'm going to go along with the caller. Jason Tatum impressed me in a lot of ways, with his ability to, I guess, play a little more team basketball, particularly in 2024. The assists went up, but the options around him were there. And people want to come for me because historically maybe I've been a little bit quicker to criticize Jason Tatum than Jaylen Brown. And a lot of this is just kind of a feel thing. I don't knock Jason Tatum for him as a person. I just feel like sometimes I can read like his brand of basketball a little bit, and it's just kind of like I prefer Jaylen Brown's brand of basketball if you're evaluating each in a vacuum. And I do feel like Jaylen Brown works better for this hunter underdog. We need to lift up the rest of the team, kind of Boston Celtics bunch, as opposed to Jason Tatum, who I could argue is probably the premium talent. Again, if you're looking at their talents in a vacuum, he's probably the better overall player than Jaylen Brown. He would have the higher NBA 2K rating, I guess would be one way to say that. But I just feel like the intangibles go to Jaylen. And the fact that Tatum maybe doesn't quite have the intangibles rating that Brown has, I don't think that that's necessarily all that bad. That, to me, is the reason that they complement each other so well. And everybody says, oh, you can't have two wings. You can't have two alpha guys. It just doesn't work. Well, this has worked. We've seen it in a championship setting. We've been seeing it for years. Everybody's always wanted to split these guys up. Everybody's always wanted to use some of the personality and stylistic differences as reasons to drive them apart. Whereas I've always kind of seen it as, okay, these guys complement each other. One guy's got a little bit more of the dog in him than the other guy. The other guy's just a little bit more, brilliant and talented when it comes to certain moments, more composed perhaps. They feed off each other. But yeah, I do agree with that hot take. I think that Jaylen Brown has the Celtics in a little bit of a better position than maybe Jason Tatum alone would have.
It's interesting because I think so much of it is just based off of the play style and that the fact they're not taking as many threes. They're a little bit more aggressive this year than they were last year, especially in that playoffs. I just have a hard time saying like a Jason Tatum-led team is going to be worse than Jaylen Brown-led team.
Do you feel like Pritchard because Brown's definitely, the usage has been there, right? He's had the ball a lot. But do you feel like, say, Peyton Pritchard is as emboldened to do the things that he's done offensively and create offensively if Jason Tatum is also on the floor? I feel if Jaylen Brown's usage took a jump, where would Jason Tatum's usage have gone to? A guy who already was basically like your de facto point guard a lot of the time that he's on the floor.
It would probably be higher. They'd probably say we have Jason Tatum. He's going to find a way to score 30 points a night, 35 points a night, 40. Like, we're just going to give him the ball and let him do his thing. Whereas with Jaylen Brown, and maybe it's more team basketball, and that's why they're succeeding this year, and it's probably a better brand of basketball to play. And maybe Jason Tatum can come back and kind of assimilate himself into this system instead of the system they were playing last year. Yeah,
and that's really the big question of what's it going to look like. And I don't think a guy, again, he's not going to come back, to your point earlier, he's not going to come back if that Achilles has any chance of getting injured again. But he's obviously not going to come back whole hog, going for it, night in and night out. That guy is, I won't say gone, but it's not smart to try and go right back to that guy. And I think Mazzulla, with the growth that he has shown as a coach and ability to handle personalities in recent years. And I feel like Jason Tatum as a guy who, we still think of him as just 19. But hey, the 19-year-old on this team, he just had a birthday. Hugo Gonzalez is now 20. That's the 19-year-old now. And Jason Tatum is a guy who's in his late 20s, approaching 30, who has just had a big injury. And I think if he's smart, and I do think that, he's a pretty smart guy, for his brand and for the Celtics' success, I think that him just kind of stepping back in and feeling his way through this is going to be an important step here, rather than just assuming, like, I'm back, put the crown back on my head.
Yeah. I mean, I think Tatum coming back, he's going to have to do things that he wasn't going to do 2 years ago. But I mean, I think he's maturing. I think this injury will hopefully, he's probably learned a lot about himself and learned about a lot about, his mentality in playing basketball. And I think that's going to change, hopefully for the better. But
yeah, it's the great equalizer, these injuries. So, the question remains, what's that going to look like? When is it going to happen? All these things remain on the table, and we're happy to talk about and speculate on them with you at 617-779-0985. Maybe there's some social media posts to decode. I'm not on TikTok, so if anything's going on there, please let me know. Be my my lifeline to that app. But yeah, we're gonna continue with any Celtics thoughts. And I thought I'd do a little Pats here at the top of the hour. You switch things up and just watch Colin. I mean, you start talking Pats, even when things are dead. We just had the Underwear Olympics this weekend, for God's sake. I'm sure there's some Pats fans out there with some opinions on something. We'll see here on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Boston's home for sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
the ice Tuesday. NHL news, Kings coach Jim Hiller fired after 2 seasons at the helm. In L.A., DJ Smith will be taking over that one. Boston Fleet 3-2 winners over Ottawa yesterday in a shootout. U.S. women's national soccer team taking on Argentina in the She Believes Cup right now, 1-0 at the half. And the Revolution fell in their second match of the 2026 season, 1-0 to the New York Red Bulls yesterday. Your headlines brought to you by Valvoline Instant Oil Change. Enjoy quick and convenient vehicle maintenance this month. Visit NewEnglandOilChange.com for 15% off your drive-through oil change at Valvoline Instant Oil Change, the official oil change of busy people. I'm Sean Sylver, Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Next update at 7 o'clock.
Attack for a deep three, violent two-hand slam. Wow.
98.5 The Sports Hub. In this town, sports happens 24/7. We're Boston's home for sports. 98.5.
Again, we were thinking it would be a fateful Sunday night where Jason Tatum was back on the Garden Parquet and all would be right with the world once again. But as we have in the past, when our great star athletes have had significant injuries, think Tom Brady in 2008, think Pedro Martinez's rotator cuff, sometimes you just gotta wait. I'm sure there are many, many more that we could add to that list. But this has been a unique one in the fact that the minute that this happened, maybe not the minute, but the day, within 24 hours of this happening, we learned that Jason Tatum was already planning for an in-season comeback the following year because of the procedure that he had had. We're still waiting for that comeback, but still hopeful that it happens as the Celtics season progresses along. And as we've talked about in the first hour, certainly been a fun season so far. Do want to get to a couple other things. We've hit on the Red Sox as well, and Patriots and Bruins on the table too. But I got some calls right now that are on here. Subject lines, as punched up by Colin Kennedy, that neither of them have anything to do with the Patriots or Bruins. So as someone like myself who lurks in the shadows of radio and generally only works when it's dark out, let's get weird. Let's talk to Rex in North Carolina. Rex, how are you this afternoon/evening?
I'm good, Sylver. You got me?
Yeah, I gotcha.
All right, gotcha. All right, so I was in a gas station. I'm from North Carolina, but I'm currently in Southern California. I was in a gas station. There is a gorgeous bust of Macho Man Randy Savage that has less than a few Slim Jims left in it, and I offered to buy the bust with the remaining Slim Jims for $50, and the woman at the register turned it down and said that if you give me your name and your number, that I would be part of the raffle to get the bust of Randy Savage. How would you have approached that? Would you have given a better Randy Macho Man Savage approach than I did?
Wow.
Yeah,
I have so many questions, Rex. So this bust. Well, first of all, you started the call by saying I saw a gorgeous bust, and I was kind of wondering if we'd have to drop you, but I got it. Okay, Slim Jim. I have heard that there are still a few Randy Savage branded Slim Jim dispensers out in the wild. You saw this where? In Southern California, where you currently are?
Southern California, yeah, Coachella Valley.
Okay, and this is currently still available? Was this a recent conversation you had?
It was a half an hour ago.
Oh, man. Oh,
yeah.
Man. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, and so...
And I offered to slip her $40, and she said I was offered more, and I was like, "Oh boy."
Okay, so this gas station is playing. Now, I wonder, is the gas station, for instance, the management, are they raffling off this Randy Savage Slim Jim dispenser, or is this like the cashier's little side hustle? Like she's gonna go to the highest bidder, perhaps.
I mean, she's smart if she does, but I don't think it's like a cash grab. I think she's just been asked a million times, Like, hey, can I buy that off you? That
Well,
kind of thing.
It would be smart for them to do a raffle. It would be very smart for them to do a raffle, and maybe.
Well, my name's in the hat, Playboy.
Nice, Rex. I like it. And I want to get an update on this. I don't know if we'll cross paths on the air again anytime soon. I do kind of wonder, like, is this a legitimate hat? Did she show you the hat? Did she show you the other entries?
She did, actually.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's like a big, whatever you call it. Remember, like the twisty tie bubblegum things that were like in a big bucket?
Sure.
It's like one of them things.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. There's a lot of
There
interest on this.
were more than a few names and numbers in there.
They
so
know that
mine's in there now.
They know they've got some gold on their hands. I'm glad you're in there. I wish you well, and I appreciate you sharing this with me because, hey, a little bit of Macho Man Randy Savage is just what my day needs pretty much every day. It's like a cup of coffee for some people.
If you could do me the good grace of giving your strongest pitch to why you should have that, I would strongly.
Talking about good graces. I got nothing but good graces. Here, Rex in North Carolina, now in Southern California. You, my friend, are doing a good deed because you are a true fan of the Macho Man Randy Savage, and you want to have that Macho Man Slim Jim dispenser in your very own basement and or man cave. Yeah!
Love that.
Rex,
Love
thank
that.
you for the
Seas. Go Seas, baby.
All right, take it easy. Thanks for the call.
Right,
That's a good one. That's a good one right there. Colin, did you expect that I was going to go full on whatever I just did there?
No, but I liked it as a WWE fan
I
myself.
like it. Yeah!
But there's got to be a price for the Macho Man dispenser or whatever he was trying to get, right?
Everybody's got a price, as the $1 Million Man would say.
If $40 didn't do it, I feel like you gotta. If you really want it, there's a price.
So, yeah. So, like, his name and number are in the chewing gum bin. But there's an opportunity here. There is a real opportunity here. And anybody who followed the life of the Macho Man Randy Savage, he had his quirks and potentially some very disconcerting things about him as well. But he was a very charitable man. We could raise some money for the Children's Hospital or something like that. Let's get a real route. Get a real route. A 50-50. Put in your bid on the Macho Man Slim Jim dispenser. Rest of the money goes to charity. That's how I would handle this here. I mean, I'm not knocking the gas station. I mean, I hope it's a fair and equitable way for them to give away this thing, and I hope that Rex gets it. That was one of my favorite calls right there. I love that is happening. Macho Man Randy Savage has not wrestled a match since 2004. That was in TNA, and people could argue whether or not that was actually wrestling. And there is still a Slim Jim dispenser out there in the wild. I love it. That's cool. I got to go on eBay and see what one of these things goes for. And I just found out Colin's a WWE guy as well, so I have no problem going there. Ben in Norfolk. Let's get to Ben. Ben, how are you?
Well, Sean, brother, if you want to get the Macho Man bust, you must be the cream of the crop. Make an offer that he can't refuse. Maybe a date with Miss Elizabeth, brother. Oh, yeah, snap into a Slim Jim.
I'm not auctioning off my lady. No way. Yeah, get to the point.
Okay, Sean. This has been a Norfolk guy. You said you were talking about big fears?
So
my biggest fear
did you see the story? What? Go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead. My biggest fear is being a huge favorite in a playoff game, particularly basketball.
Oh.
And, I fear complacency, and I feel like, taking it for granted that we're just going to go out there and win it without putting in the effort. But luckily, my number one seed, Norfolk Blazers.
Yes.
Did what they needed to do.
Yes.
They took down North Quincy.
Yes.
Big time rebounding, big time defense, big time shot making, and we're on to the semis. Oh, yeah, brother.
Another favorite phone call.
Hi, Coach Sean.
Hey, Charlie. What's up? Go Blazers.
Go Blazers. Have a good night, Sean.
You as well. There's Coach Ben. Coach Ben, the coach of the Norfolk Trailblazers. Big game for the Blazers yesterday. Big game. and they'll be playing another round of playoffs next weekend thanks to doing a little TCB, taking care of business in their first round matchup. I was on the bench for that one, but that is Ben's what would you say, Mona Lisa, the growth and ascent of the Norfolk Trailblazers over the past 3 or 4 months, and Charlie in there listening as well. Big key plays from Charlie yesterday. Key plays, always in the mix. Biggest fear, though, the reason I asked that is something that we'll get to on the other side. If any of you saw the sinkhole story this week, I got to say, the earth opening up and swallowing me from beneath my feet has got to be among the most scary things that I've ever heard. We'll hit on that and, well, plenty more things coming up on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Boston's home for sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Pro 98.5. Here with you till 7:30 when we hand it over to Grandy and Max, the fastest 30 minutes in the NBA, that being Celtics tonight, as the Celtics and Philadelphia 76ers face off. No Joel Embiid. That's really not all that surprising. Joel Embiid plays when Joel Embiid feels like it. Jason Tatum, he's also going to play when he feels like it. He's not playing tonight. We'll figure all that stuff out. Plenty of things on the table, of course. We've already touched on Celtics and Red Sox. I do want to get to Patriots and Bruins, but first I want to get to Pete and Haverhill, who's got a thought on the C's as well. Pete, how are you?
Hey, how you doing?
Doing good tonight.
Thank you for taking the call.
Of course.
I'm not going to compare my injury to that of a professional athlete or anything like that, but I'm just going to add something like my physical therapist said to me during the rehabilitation process. So, like, I completely snapped my ACL,
ACL?
And went through that.
Okay.
But, yeah, I did a full, like, ACL tear.
Yeah.
But their point was the risk, because you said this earlier, the risk of re-injury is really high at the beginning of the rehabilitation process. So when they replace that tendon, it starts to decay as soon as they put it in the body. So the whole rehab process is about like getting blood flow through that and everything like that and building it up to a healthy tendon again. At this point, he's fully healthy. It's a fully healthy tendon at this point. It's not a re-injury issue.
Yeah.
It's more, and again, that's not to say it'll come back 100% or this or that. It's just the tendon is healthy at this point in the rehab process. It's just, does he feel comfortable? Is it 100%? Can he do everything he needs to do? Like this is all part of like the strength building process and like where they feel comfortable, but it shouldn't be, I should say, a re-injury issue. That's very early in the rehab process. Once they get it to a point of like healthy tendon, that's when they start letting them do like more explosive movements and stuff like that. That's all I was going to add.
Pete, I appreciate that perspective, and that's actually a good jumping off point here for this topic. Hey, have a good night, Pete. So the Felger and Maz would have shut down that relating my personal injury story thing immediately, but Pete's got some perspective here, and I think it's important to have the perspective of, say, physical therapists on this. I know when I was thinking about Kevin Durant earlier, and I mentioned him in comparison, and just did a quick Google, like Kevin Durant Achilles injury, and a sports medicine website popped up. And one of the points that they made was that Durant's calf injury in the Western Conference semifinals that year, again, jogging my memory, because what was I doing in May or June of 2019? Lord knows, probably working here, talking about something different. But, Kevin Durant injuring his calf, or whatever it was, I think it was his calf, in the second round, and then trying to come back in the finals, apparently that was ill-advised. So you've got, as doctors and physical therapists and whomever will always say to you, everything is connected, right? So if your calf is not 100%, something else is going to be overcompensating. I found that out when I needed to have back surgery when I was 27, that other things were trying to compensate for my bad back, and I wound up having bad hips and feet and all kinds of stuff. So the body being all interrelated is very important to consider. Pete's perspective is, hey, that Achilles is healthy, but the question here is, not necessarily about the risk of re-injury, but about the strength and explosiveness, and are those things for Jason Tatum returned to 100%? Because that's what makes him, the complete wrecking ball of a basketball player that he is. So, Colin kind of said it too, like, we're not worried necessarily about the player being sprawled out on the floor, snapping his Achilles again. But there, again, the body is all related. If there are weaknesses somewhere, the body's going to compensate. Other muscles are going to try and compensate. So, and probably most importantly, he needs to be confident in his movements. And that is all of those things coming together, the confluence of those factors is where Jason Tatum returns to the court. So we just don't know when that's going to happen. Maybe at this point I'm going to go with the March 14th, the if it's not on Sunday night against the Sixers in a showcase game, right, on March 1st, and let's bring up Celtics schedule right here. Boston Celtics schedule. Okay. If it's not going to be in the Sunday showcase game against Philly, it's not going to come on a weeknight game against Milwaukee, Charlotte, or Dallas. I don't. Well, Milwaukee. Excuse me. They're on the road a back-to-back. That's brutal. I didn't know tomorrow night's game was on the road. I hadn't paid attention to that. Who's caring about the Bucks these days? But Charlotte Wednesday and Dallas Friday at home. Is Tatum going to jump in against the surging Hornets on Wednesday on a 7:30 tip on NBC Sports Boston? The Dallas game is an ESPN game on Friday.
That's an interesting day, just because of the Cooper Flag connection. I don't know if Cooper Flag's playing or what the status of that Dallas roster is, if they're going full tank yet. But that's an interesting option. I think if you're going to go the NBC route, and if Tatum and NBC are really that connected, the whole documentary rollout. The documentary is 5 episodes. The first one came out last week. If you go out 5 weeks, that's March 22nd against the Timberwolves on Sunday night, an NBC game.
March 22nd. That was another one that was flexed, correct? Or
that was always.
Or was
Sunday.
it always there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean Cooper Flag, he's been playing lately. I know. I was just talking to a friend who secured tickets for a Mainer who is a friend of his who really wanted to come down from Bangor for the oh wait, I said it wrong. It's Bangor, not Banger. You ever heard the song King of the Road?
No, I don't think so.
Trailers for sale or rent. I believe he references Bangor, Maine. He says it wrong. The singer, Roger Miller. I once sang that song with Bruins national anthem singer Renee Roncourt at a senior citizens home. There's a story for Colin. But, yeah, that's the one. The 22nd. Minnesota. What was the 14th? Washington. Would he come back for a Wizards game? No.
I don't think so. I mean, unless the Tatum return in itself is worthy of a flex, which I don't know if they can flex that, but I know ESPN usually does the Saturday games with inside the NBA and stuff.
Right.
So that could be an option if the return is pre-advertised and it's a big enough deal that they want to flex that into a nationally televised game. The Wizards aren't a national appealing team, so I can't see that. But
would he want to come back against a junky team to kind of get his legs under him and schooled Bilal Coulibaly or somebody, whoever the Wizards are sending at him that evening?
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I don't think that first game back he's playing over 15 minutes anyway, so I don't think he's coming back and having a 35-point performance where he's getting a standing ovation coming off the floor.
But Minnesota, you're going into that, you're going to have Ant on the other side of the court, you're going to be trying to score over Gobert. It's
it's not going to be easy, but if he wants the moment, there's your moment.
There's your moment.
Or it was tonight. But
yeah, I guess it was. But it'll be what it'll be. That's uncomfortable for a lot of people in sports, and I'm gonna want to hit on something later. I mean, I feel like I have a lot more patient approach with Boston sports than some, and I don't know really. Maybe I'm not naturally a patient person. You could ask my kids about that, or my wife, or just I could be honest with myself. I am not a patient person personally, but with my sports teams, I'm pretty patient in terms of them figuring it out. It's just for me is, Jason Tatum have sufficient runway. If he comes back in the 22nd, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 games before the playoffs, is that enough to feel like you're there, whatever there is? We'll take your calls at 617-779-0985. As far as patience, the New England Patriots, I feel like they need to be patient. The Boston Bruins, I feel like they need to be patient. I think everybody wants both of these teams to different degrees to make some big trades right now. Trade me right bleeping now, as Denis Lemieux would say. But I think they need to be patient. I'll let you know why coming up after this.
Boston's home for sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
on what we did this year, and we know how difficult that will be. So right now the plan is to evaluate everybody that we can, have communication and conversations when those times come with the agents as we approach the tampering window. But right now it's about gaining information from our scouting department and having our coaches look at it, and then figuring out, a few players at each position.
Legal. Doesn't make any sense. Sean Sylver here with you till 7:30. Colin Kennedy running things. And, if Mike Vrabel was that dude from, let's reference something that is going to go completely over Colin's head again. Let's reference a Southwest Airlines commercial from 2004. If Mike Vrabel was that dude from Philadelphia who goes, yeah, we got a lot of culture here, that would be Mike Vrabel. He's trying to build a culture with the Patriots. We're trying to put the pieces in place for sustained success. So are we getting wild out there? Are we getting Busta Rhymes wild for the night? The Underwear Olympics were this weekend. That being the NFL Scouting Combine. And I did not watch. I don't think I have ever watched an NFL Scouting Combine. I leave that to well-respected journalists at this radio station and at other places, like Alex Barth, 98.5thesportshub.com, and other locales on the internet, to tell me about 40 times and vertical jumps and the lengths of people's arms. I can get all that information from them. So I thank them for doing something that I absolutely do not want to do. However, the chatter is always fun out of the combine because, it used to be that, you probably had like a month in between the Super Bowl and the combine? More than a month? Right? Because the Super Bowl actually used to be in mid to late January. But now that it's basically Valentine's Day, which I believe next year's Super Bowl is going to be on Valentine's Day, you'll reconvene in a couple of weeks and then you'll have the combine. And, we'll get back to talking about football after a whole 14 days of missing it. The chatter is fun. Now, obviously, there have been some teams that have been dormant for a long time. The season ending, whenever that was, early January sometime. And a lot of teams' seasons, while not officially ending until early January, they ended back in sometime in maybe October or November, as it just wasn't happening. So, the stuff that comes out of there is always going to raise an eyebrow or two. There's some good headlines. Among them, Stephon Diggs' situation. Now, Vrabel talking about the pursuit of free agents, right? And he's not going to give away his strategy, but is Stephon Diggs going to be here next year? Because if so, the Patriots are going to need a free agent wide receiver. They got their free agent wide receiver in Stephon Diggs last year. And he put up numbers that no one has done in a Patriots uniform since Julian Edelman in 2019. His catch percentage, as I said many times in these airways, was elite. I believe he was number one among all receivers with any sort of meaningful amount of targets this season. I think Dortch on the Cardinals might have been the top, but he had 30-something receptions. Steph Diggs was elite. And yes, I know that there were a lot of other offensive pieces that propelled this team's success, but does any of that stuff happen without a number one wide receiver? So if the Patriots are thinking of either A, restructuring Steph Diggs' contract, which I believe is going to be a non-starter because the guy went out there and earned his money last year, or B, cutting him loose because there's a $6 million guarantee that clocks in very soon, what's your plan? And I want to know your plan out there, 617-779-0985. A receiving core of Kayshon Boutte, Demario Douglas, Mac Hollins, Kyle Williams. That's like the 2006 Pats all over again. And we all know what that felt like around here. So you have a successful Super Bowl team, Super Bowl appearing team, not winning team. What's your plan? Because if Steph Diggs is gone, then you better get active in free agency. And you're going to be, well, probably either overpaying for someone, or you're going to be going out there and looking for a value signing. Maybe someone whose value is depressed, like a Steph Diggs coming off an ACL injury was last year. Or maybe A.J. Brown. According to reports, the Patriots have legitimate interest in A.J. Brown. But also, according to reports, they have been disappointed with the asking price, which may include multiple early round, including a first-rounder, picks. Colin, do you have any interest on seeing A.J. Brown in red, white, and blue next fall?
Yeah, how could you not? I mean, just talent alone. You could have questions about his on-field issues, mentality. I think a lot of that has to do with the Eagles themselves and his relationship with the head coach.
Yeah.
I think coming here, a lot of that would be improved. But at the same time, I'm not trading premium draft picks. I'd probably give up a third and some lower picks because I think, would you rather have Kyle Williams or A.J. Brown? And that's pretty much the question because they drafted Kyle Williams in the 3rd or 4th round last year. Mm-hmm. So that's a no-brainer for me, even if his contract's high.
There's no way you're going to get him for that. I can't imagine that some teams,
then I guess
nobody's going to step forward and give up a draft pick. Somebody is going to have to step forward and give up a high draft pick. It's just inevitable because even if there's a team that's not trying to win, there's a team that's going to be trying to get buzz, right? So
sure, yeah. I don't know if anybody's out there going to give up a first-round pick for A.J. Brown. I just don't see it.
Would you prefer, say you could get him on for not a lot of draft capital surrendered, would you prefer Brown or Diggs next year?
A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
I think you've kind of capitalized on what Stephon Diggs gave you in 1 year. And I think he gave you all that he probably is capable of giving you at this point in his career. And you didn't get any issues from him on the field. Now there's off-the-field questions with Stephon Diggs.
Right.
I think you're happy with what you got with the Stephon Diggs experiment, and you move on to another diva receiver. But anyway.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, I look at the void, and I'm not a big you need a diva receiver kind of guy. But I look at a guy who came in and the numbers are really indisputable. And again, there weren't a lot of games where I felt like the Patriots needed that big catch from Diggs, but I felt like it happened enough times. And just the fact that he, was enough of a distraction out there really allowed, you need something there. You need some major. I don't think that people thought the Patriots receiving core was enough of a threat to start the season. And we saw some major growth on that team over the year. But you take away Diggs, and it's just yikes. I mean, that immediately puts their 1A need back to receiver for the second consecutive offseason, maybe third or fourth consecutive offseason.
Diggs is a guy that opposing defensive have to game plan for, have to at least pay attention to, which then opens up opportunities for Kayshon Boutte or Demario Douglas. So, I mean, you need someone like that because then if you get rid of Diggs, you don't add anybody, and now defenses can just lock up Kayshon Boutte, which you saw in the postseason. He had one big catch against the Texans, but other than that, defenses were able to kind of keep the Pats receivers in check. Which,
I mean, weather might have had a part in it, and obviously the Seahawks, while not Legion of Boom levels, were one of the best defensive units in football.
Yeah.
So they had a really tough road in the playoffs, but that's what you would expect. That said, even though I say if Steph Diggs departs, then you've got an emergency need at wide receiver. I don't think they need to freak out and treat this as we must get back to the Super Bowl or bust kind of offseason. I mean, I even look at it's probably a popular thing to go to, but 01, 02 was a reset year for the Pats. And I think didn't the Browns get into playoffs that year? They were sorry, Colin.
I wasn't born yet.
Just old man talk constantly with me. But the Patriots I think had a 3-way tie at 9-7, and the other teams got in, and the Pats didn't get in. For some reason, the Browns stand out. They might have gotten in there. You didn't like Kelly Holcomb as their quarterback. I don't know. I'm shouting at clouds right now. But the point kind of remains that they needed a reset year, and some of the veterans that were there for that first Patriots Super Bowl win, they moved on from. Antoine Smith became Corey Dillon. Otis Smith. I guess they had something against Smiths at this time. They got rid of him and they brought in Tyrone Poole. Rodney Harrison eventually, joined the gang. They had belief in the quarterback, and they had belief in enough of the pieces that they took an assessment of the roster and they said, okay, these pieces, at least long term, we don't think that they're going to necessarily work for us. So we're going to step away from that. And we're gonna go with surefire guys. We're gonna beef up our team and go for it. And I think that's just all a part of this progression here. I don't think the Patriots necessarily right now know what's going to get them back to their next Super Bowl when they have a real schedule. But they know they have belief in the quarterback and in several key pieces. And if they continue to see growth and you add guys through the draft and through free agency, they're good fits, that's what gets you back. To me, it's not panicking, and I don't know if this qualifies as panicking. They're going to need an edge rusher, too, to be competitive, but I don't think you need to go necessarily for one of the top name guys or a guy like a Hendrickson who's in his 30s and has had some injury concerns, to have the next chapter of your book, right? I think that part of it is just growing into it, and part of it is figuring out what the right formula is. And, I don't think the Patriots are going to do it, and I just don't think it's necessarily right to go in an offseason and expect big trades, big signings for this kind of a team. Your window is open. You're not necessarily entitled to anything. But part of that is just kind of realizing that there's a reality of being competitive in the NFL, and it doesn't mean just splashing the cash willy-nilly to try and shore up perceived weaknesses. So I don't know if there's a target out there for you, Colin, what side of the ball that would be on, or if there's a specific name that you'd like to see and what your justification for that would be.
This guy isn't a flashy receiver, but it's more. If the Colts do re-sign Alex Pierce to the franchise tag and that big contract, could they move away from Michael Pittman? And he's not an elite number one wide receiver.
I like Pittman, though. Yeah.
But I like Pittman, and I think he could kind of elevate with Drake May. Again, he's not an elite wide receiver. You're probably pairing him with, whether that's Stephon Diggs, A.J. Brown, somebody else, whether that's a wide receiver near the top of the draft. But I think Pittman's a really good option out there. That could come relatively cheap.
I mean, and there's a guy who a few years ago I don't remember how many balls Pittman caught, but he was close to number one totals. There'd been a little bit more of a group effort under Daniel Jones last year. They were hitting a lot of different targets, but Pittman has had some close to elite statistics. And you hook him up with May. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? So, hey, I think that's a great choice, and I think it's going to be moves like that. So, yes, I did express the concern that if Stephon Diggs departs, they're going to need somebody. That to me is a perfect somebody, because you don't have the diva stuff. You're not surrendering draft capital, and I do believe I talked about this coming off of the Celtics. Playing the Lakers on Pat Riley night. One of the great Pat Riley isms, I guess you could say. If you study the philosophies of one Pat Riley, was the disease of me. And that is when any team wins a championship or, ascends to a certain level of success, that the principals on that team are going to want more for themselves. And, potentially that's something that happened with A.J. Brown or several different players in the Philadelphia offense where they wanted more of themselves and the coaching staff not able to provide it, and you get people unhappy. There's a number of reasons why Philadelphia went downhill this year, but that's probably part of it. And you do wonder, after making the Super Bowl, how many guys are going to think that they're hot to trot on the Pats and, really want much more for themselves. Again, it's always better to be the hunter than the hunted. And for the Patriots to not get comfortable and be like, hey, we're the defending AFC champions, and have that want and bring in guys like a Pittman who tasted a little bit of success with the Colts for some of the season, but hey, now I'm coming into a team that's been to a Super Bowl. Maybe I can bring them, help them get to a next level. I think that's kind of the point that I'm trying to make there, and Colin provided that for me. So grateful for that. 617-779-0985. We're rolling along here. We're about 35 minutes away from Celtics tonight with Grandy and Max. Taking your calls, of course. Sean Sylver here on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Boston's home for sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Hey, it's Sean Flaherty, managing partner at Catches Law Group. If you've spent years working in construction, the wear and tear on your body can add up. And what many people don't realize is that those conditions may actually entitle you to compensation. At Catches Law, we've won more for construction workers than any other law firm in New England. We understand the work, we understand the injuries, and we know how to win. If your job is taking a toll on your body, it's time to find out your options. Visit catcheslaw.com for a free consultation today. There's no fee unless you win.
Roofing? Mario's. Siding? Mario's. Windows? Mario's. Skylights? Just call Mario's.
Hi, this is Stephen Goulston, owner of Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, Windows, and Skylights. Homeowners choose Mario's Roofing because we're fair, honest, and provide quality services. Call Mario's Roofing today for a free estimate, 781-344-2420. Visit us at mariosroofing.com. Mario's Roofing. We won't soak you to keep you warm and dry.
This is 2026. No more messing around. It's the first day of the rest of your life. Today, you are switching to Astound. Shifting your Wi-Fi and life into a new gear. Reliable, affordable connection. So you can browse, watch, and play like you've always wanted. Because slow Wi-Fi is so last year. Under budget, full speed ahead. That's Astound. Gig Wi-Fi for $50 a month with the 3-year price lock. Restrictions apply. See astound.com for details.
Every part of your life deserves protection, from your car to your home to your family. At Amica Insurance, they're committed to helping you safeguard what matters most. For more than a century, Amica has provided personalized coverage and world-class service you can count on. Whether you're looking for auto, home, or life insurance, they'll help you find the right fit for your unique needs. Visit Amica.com to get a quote today, because peace of mind starts with protection.
Hey, it's Zoe. Listen, it's cold, real New England cold. And when that happens, we all run inside and crank the heat. But before...
Scuba diving, no interest. No, being way underwater with the potential for that thing to malfunction. No. I love the ocean. I'll watch it in documentaries. Jacques Cousteau, lived for a reason. But I gotta say, the sinkhole in Nebraska, that's some stuff. Now, this apparently was caused due to a water pipe having like a massive leak, so the street just collapsed underneath these two cars at a light. But I've seen some that are just, they couldn't have been AI because I saw these things on like social media like years ago. I've just seen massive freaking sinkholes appear suddenly. And it's like, yeah, that is skeleton emoji for me. Colin, are you a heights guy?
I don't mind heights.
Doesn't mind heights. Is there anything that you think would be maybe potentially scarier than a sinkhole?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think about a sinkhole that often when I'm driving. Like, it's not something that I think of.
Well, it could happen anywhere.
I mean, it could.
It could be a sinkhole under your house. Well, I suppose they would have inspected that, but
yeah,
sinkhole in your yard.
Yeah, I'm more afraid of people around me driving than I am with like a
That's
sinkhole.
true. That's true. I was cutting through Midfield on my way to the station. Lovely town. Someone straight up on the other side of the road. You want to know what happened to me at Dunkin' Donuts the other day?
Sure.
So I pull in my Dunkin' Donuts in my town, and I spread my donut dollar around. Okay, I feel like Dunkin' Donuts is a sponsor of things here, but either way, I was going to Dunkin's. My daughter likes the Dunkin' Donuts the best. You can get her donuts from other. My daughter likes the Dunkin', so we go there. I don't like using the drive-through lane. I don't like waiting. I would rather park my car, get out, hustle in there, grab the thing off the counter, and go back to my car rather than sitting and waiting behind these people who've got about 18 items they're trying to order. Or, half whipped, half calf in your ear, whatever. They're 16 different modifications on a drink. I pull into the Dunkin' Donuts. At my local Dunkin' Donuts, immediately to the right is the place where you enter the drive-thru. So you're coming off the street, you've got an in and you've got an out lane. And to the right of the in lane, you can pull right into the drive-thru lane. I pull in using the in lane as one does. There is a car backing out of the drive-thru lane. Well, I immediately notice that this is not good. So I move over, sort of into the middle of the parking lot, kind of blocking like the out lane, but just to get out of the way of this minivan, SUV, whatever it is, backing out of the drive-thru lane. While I'm doing this, another car is attempting to pull in from an opposite direction, pull into the parking lot. And as I am letting the car back out of the drive-thru lane, this Jeep pulls in and cuts me off and pulls into the drive-thru lane. No heed paid at all, no attention paid to the situation, or that I was trying to be safe when some fool is backing out of a drive-thru lane at a Dunkin' Donuts. Just a collection of bozos and nut jobs go and patronize that place. All they want is their coffee, no regard for human safety. Cuts me off in the drive-thru lane. So I have to sit behind this guy as he puts in his lengthy order. I was peeved. I wanted to yell, but you never know these days, what unhinged type you're gonna encounter. I just kind of sat there and seethed. What was this about? Sinkholes?
Yeah, I think we started with sinkholes, and then we got to Law and Orders at the drive-thru.
Terrible. You know what was great, though? Apparently, did you read this part of the story?
No.
The Nebraska-Omaha women's basketball team, 2 of the players were in the line. Did you hear this?
No.
So they were a few cars back. They noticed something was wrong. One of them got out of the car. Another thing I can't stand about people, videoing like bad stuff on your phone. There are people taking videos and pictures of the freaking sinkhole while there are people in the sinkhole.
It's their moment. It's their time to shine.
The Nebraska women's basketball player, I'm going to look up her. I think her name was Diana Borzutsky. I think they were both players from Europe who were over here playing, college hoops. And, I can't get that link to open. Oh, there we go. And, reaches into the sinkhole, and pulls one of the trapped, people out of there. And apparently after the fact, she talked to her family and they were like, hey, you could have been really hurt. And she was like, I just did what I needed to do. But there's video, other people taking the video. She had to ask some other guy who I could have been the other guy. There was a guy who was just kind of there like frozen, like just like, what do we do? And I'm that kind of guy. Once my sister helped me install a fence on my property and she fell into the post hole and like banged her knee up really bad. There was blood. And I just started running around the property like a chicken with my head cut off. I was like, where are the Band-Aids? Where's this? My wife comes out. She's like, what's wrong? Anna skinned her knee. Yeah, it's pretty bad. There's a lot of blood. Okay, let's get this. So I got a little freaked. I could see being frozen, paralyzed with fear, something like that. But she's like, hey, dude. Hey, frozen guy. Hey, Christoph. Come on over here and help these people out of the hole. And he did. So the two of them hauled this dude out of the hole who was stuck. But people taking videos of it. It seems like you have an opinion here, Colin.
Well, you don't want to get too close to the hole because you don't know if the sinkhole is going to expand. You don't want to fall in the hole. So
maybe local law enforcement could. I would
wait for the professionals to come.
I don't know.
Unless someone was in like extreme danger.
I feel like at least I would have tried to MacGyver something. I'd never been in one of these situations. I just told a sad story about how I freaked out when my sister skinned her knee in a post hole in my yard. So I don't know. I like find a ladder, like find something, a rope, throw a rope to them, and then I don't know. I feel like I would have done something. Okay. Maybe or maybe not, I would have been a valiant hero in that situation. But I will tell you what I would not have been doing is videoing it on my cell phone, smartphone, whatever you want to call it. It's just we have progressed to a certain stage of humanity at the Dunkin' Donuts and in the sinkhole lane where we just need to reevaluate the way we go about our days. 617-779-0985. Sorry I got so upset. I'll try to do better. Hey, let's hit some headlines. We'll get back. We'll get you ready for the Celtics game. How's that?
From the Town Fair Tire Studios. Dutcher and Hardy. Owen Beetle. Felger and Maz. The Bruins. The Celtics. The Pats. The Revolution. This is Boston's home for sports. WBC-FM at HD Boston. 98.5 The Sports Hub. A Beasley Media Group station. Sports Hub headlines. Presented by Celsius Energy Drinks.
Bottom of the hour in radio parlance, the Boston Celtics will be getting ready for their contest this evening with the 76ers. Jason Tatum, he's not coming back for this one. Joel Embiid's going to miss it too, but still some great players will take the floor. Celtics, 76ers, TD Garden, here on the BetMGM 98.5 The Sports Hub Celtics Radio Network with Celtics tonight starting at 7:30. Elsewhere, the Red Sox 8-7 losers in spring training action this afternoon. Wilson Contreras with his second home run of the spring. He also added a double, 3 driven in on the day, so a nice night for him. Bruins 3-1 losers to the Flyers at TD Garden yesterday. They're back on the ice Tuesday. Some more NHL news. Kings coach Jim Hiller fired after 2 seasons at the helm in L.A. Trying to get an update. Whatever. If you don't update your X account, I can't give an update to the listening audience. Hey, and the Revs lost yesterday. Their second match of the 2026 season. They're now 0-2 after falling 1-0 to the New York Red Bulls. Your headlines brought to you by Valvoline Instant Oil Change. Enjoy quick and convenient vehicle maintenance this month. Visit NewEnglandOilChange.com for 15% off your drive-through oil change at Valvoline Instant Oil Change, the official oil change of busy people. I'm Sean Sylver, Boston's Home for Sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub. Next update, Celtics pregame.
Are you actually coaching the game, or it's just the
that is? I feel so strongly about that. I can't even tell you.
Boston Talk Sports here.
What do we got?
Sports. Boston Sports. Yeah, we got that covered. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Larry Bird's not walking through that door, fans. Kevin McHale's not walking through that door, and Robert Parrish is not walking through that door. And if you expect them to walk through the door, they're going to be gray and old. What we are is young, exciting, hardworking, and going to improve. People don't realize that. And as soon as they realize that those three guys are not coming through that door, the better this town will be for all of us. Because they're young guys in that room playing their off. I wish we had $90 million under the salary cap. Wish we could buy the world. We can't. The only way we can do is work hard.
98.5 The Sports Hub. Happy 26th anniversary of one of the great all-time rants in sport, Rick Pitino, going off. I believed in that guy for a while here as the head of the Celtics. Maybe I was mistaken for it, but, every rose has its thorn. Also, that was in 2000, 26 years ago, which was the same spring that the song you just heard right there, The Real Slim Shady, came out as a part of the Marshall Mathers LP. I was 17 back then. So, how I was just talking about the Patriots being patient, or, I haven't really got into it in depth, but the Bruins being patient. I'm okay being patient because I know how bad things can be. Back then, the Celtics under Pitino, the Bruins had just fired Pat Burns, and they were about to lose Ray Bourque in a trade. Pete Carroll had just burned out with the Patriots. Belichick was coming in, but nobody knew what was going to be happening. We didn't know what was going to happen a year and a half after that Pitino press conference. Patriots win the Super Bowl in the winter of 2002. The Celtics are back in the Eastern Conference Final 26 months after Pitino dropped that rant. Oh, it was a grisly time. That was probably right about there was about the lowest, one of the low points. Because, again, maybe the 2003 ALCS is a low point for you, but the Patriots had already won at that point. So you're able to soothe your Boston sports soul with, okay, the Red Sox haven't done it yet. They haven't broken the curse. You didn't know if that was ever going to come, but at least the Patriots were winning some Super Bowl games because, at that time, the Red Sox were the number one team in the city. My, how things have changed for the Red Sox, for the Patriots, for the Bruins to a degree, for the Celtics for sure. They missed the playoffs 4 times since that rant. Certainly for Rick Pitino. But happy 26th anniversary to Larry Bird's not walking through that door, fans. Danny in the car.
While I'm calling about Stephon Diggs, did Rick Pitino not do like a whole? I renounce all these players. Was it Chauncey Billups that he might have traded? Is that accurate?
Chauncey Billups to the Raptors with D. Brown, maybe some other pieces. Kenny Anderson was the big get back on that.
Okay, and that was a big failure, yeah, with Kenny Anderson.
I mean, he was here for a bunch of years and played pretty well, but he might have wanted to hold on to Chauncey Billups, at least give him a chance, right? I don't know.
Right. No, fair enough. And now he's a little hot water with that gambling thing. I think he's part of that thing.
Sure.
If I may, so usually I just blurt out something, you guys hang up on me, but that being said.
Blurt away.
I like the idea of bringing Stephon back. I think there's something to be said playing in the same offense a couple of years in a row. I think Drake May stated that, looking forward to having the same coordinator. And having continuity, having players familiar, having the quarterback familiar with the receiver. Where is he going to break? Where is he going to go? 85 catches, over 1,000 yards. I was just looking while I was on hold, at the cap hit, and certainly his cap hit, I think, is like $22 million. They have a quick decision coming up here March 6th or something for $6 million, so his agent was smart there. But what are your feelings in bringing the guy back? Maybe people smarter than me are certainly he can restructure. I thought he got a lot of cash here last year. I thought he got a lot of cash. It wasn't as much as I thought. I think it was a 3-year, 60 or 65 million, and I thought there was a ton of cash up front. But I just think it'd be great to bring the guy back. And I'm not saying the guy on Philly reading books on the sideline is not a great option, but I think Stefan should be back with New England next year in some capacity, whether they are able to restructure and make him happy, seeing he's already made $154 million in his career.
Yeah, I appreciate your opinion on that, Danny, and yeah, I'll share mine back, and thanks for the call. Yeah, he has made a bunch of money in his career. Does that necessarily mean that he's going to say, hey, I'll restructure for the good of the team? Doesn't seem like he's going to want to do that. There's some risk here for him. He, say he gets dropped, will he make that much on the open market? That's a question. He's at an advanced age, but he's coming off a good season. There's probably people out there smarter than me about football and, just about cap management and stuff. And Colin already, gave his opinion saying, hey, I want to get it right, but he was okay with, moving on from Diggs just because you kind of, you milk the cow a bit, right? You got exactly what you needed out of Diggs this year. He, I believe, surpassed expectations, and maybe you don't want to go barking up that tree 2 years in a row. And there's a degree to which I agree with you, Danny, that I'd love to have him back. Will he put up the numbers from last year? I don't think so. But he's proven a lot of people wrong in his career. Even last year, I think, was a way of Diggs proving people wrong. He's obviously a guy who's motivated. Other people's opinions of him motivate his play. And, are you going to do better than Stefan Diggs? And, yeah, that familiarity that Drake May has with him, is someone going to come in and do better than Diggs? In very few circumstances could I think that you could actually do better than that next year. So, yeah, it remains to be seen. We're going to be seeing in the month of March how the Patriots feel on that, if they give him that $6 million guarantee. 617-779-0985. We still have a few minutes left before the Celtics here if you want to jump on with us. Otherwise, at 7:30, I will be moving over to the update chair for the Celtics broadcast. Colin will be taking a bow and heading on out. It'll be me and Stenberg and Grandy and Max for the rest of the night. So, we'll hit one more segment, and then we're into Celtics basketball here on the Sports Hub.
Boston's home for sports. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Big on flavor, big on comfort, and big on value. The 99 restaurants, $14.99.
right, welcome back. 98.5 The Sports Sub. It's the S. Diggity Fox. Sean Sylver with you till 7:30 as we go into Grandy and Max and Celtics basketball as they take on the 76ers and what we were hailing as potentially the return of Jason Tatum. It is not going to be that tonight, but, it'll still be a good basketball game. The Celtics, winners of 10 of 12. We just saw what Grandy said in his tweet. Potentially, well, actually, no, not potentially. If you look at it by one metric, the greatest offensive night in NBA history, which credit to the Celtics for producing it, but also you were playing the Brooklyn Nets. No measuring stick, those Brooklyn Nets, for sure, but Jaylen Brown had his usual big game, and Nikola Vucevic his third double-double as a member of the Celtics, pouring in 28 points as well. And Vooch can do that kind of thing for you from time to time, not necessarily only against the Nets. So more of that, please, and more of the Boston Celtics, playing to the level that they have as we wait for Jason Tatum's return. I want to hit up some personal opinions here. So I got a text, a group text with my cousins. And we saw this boardroom Instagram post the other day. Which era wins? Oh my gosh. We're going to have another one of these. But I feel like for basketball fans, this is always the talk. And this is the thing where the basketball podcasters get to call, guys who played in the 60s, plumbers and insurance salesmen. And, oh, yeah, they had to have those jobs in the offseason because basketball didn't pay anything back then. But everybody inherently, whether it's sports or music, you think that your generation that you grew up watching is the best generation. So for me, it's probably watching the basketball players of the 80s or 90s, or maybe the generation of the Kobes and the Shaqs and the KGs. But I see this graphic. Which era wins? The silent generation, which is guys who are, born in like pre-World War II, right? Russell, Wilt, Kareem, Oscar Robertson, Jerry West. Or how about the baby boomers, the guys born, in the 50s and 60s? Jordan, Magic, Bird, Akeem, Barkley. Generation X, Kobe, Shaq, KG, Duncan, and Allen Iverson. The millennial team, Steph Curry, LeBron, Durant, Harden, Jokic. And finally, the Gen Z team, which scientists would say, not enough information. The data set's not quite big enough yet. Cooper Flagg, Shea, Wemby, Anthony Edwards, Luka Doncic. Colin Kennedy, consumer of basketball. Which generation had the most legendary players? Is your, maybe he's not, there he is.
Go with probably like 80s, 90s. Jordan, Bird.
Are you just trying to cozy up to me here on our first time working together?
Yeah.
My cousin Jim had the same response. He was like the 80s, 90s players, no doubt. If you think about it, that lineup with Jordan and MJ and Magic in the backcourt, Bird and Barkley in the front court, and Olajuwon at center is the most balanced lineup. But what are you doing what is that team doing? Do they have enough shooting to overcome a paint that is packed with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bill Russell, and Wilt Chamberlain? And not to mention, they got a guy who averaged a triple-double and one of the greatest point guards and scorers of all time in their backcourt. The old school team. Similarly, what about the triple big lineup of KG, Duncan, and Shaq with Iverson and freaking Kobe Bryant for the Gen X team? Crazy. Also crazy to observe that the Millennials and the Gen Z teams each boast one center, Nikola Jokic and Victor Wembanyama, whereas the other three teams each have three big men apiece. The NBA has changed, folks. We've known that for 10 to 15 years now, but when you look at it in an Instagram graphic, it's kind of wild. I don't know. How would that Jordan, Magic, and Bird team fare? 3 of the biggest names of all time. We'll never get to know the essence of sports debate. I hope this program has given you the essence of sports debate this evening. I'm Sean Sylver. Colin Kennedy, thank you for your hard work. We're on to Grandy and Max, the Celtics and the 76ers next on 98.5 The Sports Hub.